You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. I'm your host, Anna. I'm here with Paul, and today we are talking about one of the most beautiful games, in my opinion, out of all of the Sierra games out there. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Good. So we're both on the same page. That's a good start. Tonight we are talking about Roberta Williams' The Dagger of Amon Ra. Although I guess we'll get into more than just Roberta's involved in this game. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, beautiful game, beautiful box. I don't think I could say enough good things about it.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing game, and there's like 7 different ways to say it. You could be like Laura Bow in Dagger of Amon Ra, Laura Bow 2 Dagger of Amon. There's a lot of doesn't matter. It's a gorgeous game, and it's a lot of fun, and it's very different than the first Laura Bow installment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both of them give you a bit of a notebook, but this one actually lets you ask questions from the notebook instead of just using it as a reference point to base your game off of.
Yeah, it's a really good way to put it. You sound shockingly prepared to talk about this today.
Well, it's a game that really worked well in the point and click format. Actually, not every game was I happy with the Switch, but in this particular case, I thought it was a beautiful follow up, even though they entirely changed the format and I mean, in some ways, changed the character. You know, her looks and stuff. I mean, they had to. She's hand painted now.
Yeah, they had several more colors to work with, but and I guess I shouldn't say it's very different because it's really not. I mean, at the heart, it's kind of the same, but it's visually very different, right? Like it's a lot brighter of a game, like a lot
Mhm.
brighter of a palette. It takes place not half, but the beginning's in the daytime, and then the rest of the game's in the museum, which is like well lit. Whereas like Colonel's
Mhm.
Bequest is just like a really dark, visually dark game.
Mhm. Yeah, I wonder how much that had to do with the different people involved in each game. So each of them are listed as being a Roberta Williams game, but just from my research here and there, it appears that maybe she was much more involved in the first one than in the second one.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I guess her name's kind of almost gratuitously on the second one, in the sense that it's her franchise, obviously her company, but really I don't think she had much to do, if anything, with the sequel.
Hmm. Yeah, I keep seeing information about Bruce Balfour doing a lot of the work, and he did a whole bunch of other games, Wasteland not but the least of them, and so many other things. And all of a sudden, here he is. He pops up and does this little contract job with Sierra, and he's working with Josh Mandel and Laura Lee Shannon, and all of a sudden, you have this like wild team creating this really a game that is unlike a lot of the other games out there. I don't think I've encountered anything quite like this. It's funny, it's educational, it's shocking, it's scary, it's eerie. Again, educational. I'm going to throw that in twice because my goodness, if they could cram a quote or a little tidbit of information out there, you'd think it was Gold Rush for all that they're trying to teach you.
Yeah, no, it really is. They did a really good job of making the game feel like it was in the Roaring Twenties as it was depicted as being, because there's a lot of just not even ham-fisted, just a lot of nice, like, subtle ways of letting you know that. Like there's I think there's something on the bulletin board at where she works where it says Native Americans have gained citizenship, and the date's like it's correct as in
Mhm.
1924, whatever the actual date was. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff like that. And there's a lot of kind of controversy around this game even at the time, which says a
Mhm.
lot because this is not pre-internet but pre-Twitter anyway, and um, it took a little more to get people whipped up when this game came out, and it managed to accomplish that. But we can get into the controversies a little bit later in the show. But yeah, that was kind of fun. But yeah, like you said, it was Bruce Balfour's project. I know he's what I assume as he should be quite proud of it because it's awesome. Josh
Mhm.
Mandel co-wrote it. Josh Mandel Josh Mandel did Space Quest 6 and Freddie Farkas, among other things. He co-wrote it with Lorelei Shannon, who did King's Quest 7 and one of my favorite Sierra games, Phantasmagoria 2, A Puzzle of Flesh.
Yeah.
Oh, that game's so good. Love that game. She's such a lovely woman too. But yeah, they did an awesome job because you've got Lorelei's. I'm going to assume it's Lorelei's kind of darkness. That's sort of her thing, is more the horror genre. Because the game's quite dark. It was the first Sierra game to depict the first Roberta Williams game to depict blood. And it's quite, even the flavor text, the descriptions for the corpses and stuff, it gets pretty gross, pretty dark, and pretty awesome. But then you've got Josh Mandel handling what I would assume a lot of it maybe in the flavor text, because there's a lot of just really take you by surprise, funny comments to things.
Yeah, exactly. It's like all of a sudden I'm getting a joke about the Ziggy comic just because of reference to one of the characters. I'm like, what's that doing there? Oh, that's nice. Just little things to make me laugh.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Like I ranked this game in like my top 3 or 5 kind of all time before replaying it for this episode, and after playing it again, I stand by that. Like it's just it's so good. It's cathartic. As a Sierra fan, it's cathartic, but it's just great. It's hard. It's also a little frustrating at times, but it's like that perfect balance of reward. You feel, if you stick with it, you feel really rewarded. And yeah, so I guess going forward, we should probably just say now there's like heavy spoilers ahead. So that's, there you go. You've had 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah. A big spoiler here. If you go to cross the road and you've completely forgotten how the game works, you're going to get killed. And then it may take a little while to remember how to look both ways to cross the street. You'd think this would be a simple thing. And I'm just like, where do you have to look? Because I'm trying to look on the left and the right side of her head. You just have to look at each side of the screen. Like, it's totally logical when you get down to it. And you can even do it as soon as you leave a building so that you don't have to do it at the edge of the street or whatever. You just need to look while you're on the screen, and the amazing intelligence the game knows. But if it doesn't, you get like a flying smuck and you end up rolling over on the sidewalk, which is also pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I had no idea that you could cross the street if you look both ways. That's that much cooler that they took it that far. That's awesome. We have a message group, just you, myself, and Rick, for the show, and I'd written you guys after playing just 20 minutes of it, and I sent you guys a screen capture of getting hit by the car, and I was like, the last game I really played was Sam and Max. And I just got to say, it feels good to be home again, because just getting tucked into a Sierra game, trying to cross the street and getting mercilessly run over in a cartoonish death was just, I'm home. This is what I love.
Oh, it's great. And like I ran into what I think was a very early unwinnable situation, and maybe I'm just not understanding how to proceed. But when I went back to the sandwich vendor to get a sandwich for the cop, I gave him the coupon and he's like, oh, that's great. Here's your sub. That's fine. I'm going to go broke now, but whatever. And I accidentally clicked away from the sub and the sub disappeared, but I didn't have any way to re-engage the conversation because I didn't have another ticket, and he'd already given it to me. So exclamation mark, fine. Well, question mark, fine. You can ask him about your stuff, but how do you re-engage the sandwich? I couldn't. So I had to go back, and luckily I saved just a minute earlier because I'm a Sierra gamer, but still I'm like, well, that's silly. I guess you have to be either really careful to it or I'm entirely missing a concept.
No, I think you're innocent there, because the and this is a good thing to mention too. If you were about to tune out because of spoilers, which I kind of doubt anybody would at this point, but there is one unwinnable state in this game, one Walking Dead scenario, whatever, and that's, well, formerly I knew it as if you ate the sandwich. So I guess either way it revolves around the sandwich, but I didn't know that you could. Yeah, that you could, fumble and click the wrong thing at the wrong time and lose. So just bloody be careful with the sandwich.
Yeah.
Just, save it before you give the guy the coupon. But if you haven't played it yet, just know that's the only, Dick Sierra move in the game is if you eat the sandwich, you're done. You can't get another coupon to get another sandwich. So, but other than that, you're fine. You'll be all right. I mean, you're going to die a lot, but you're not going to be in an unwinnable state.
No, and you can miss stuff, and it's fine. It actually, like, this game expects you not to catch every piece of evidence and to figure out exactly who did what and how the first time around. You're expected to get kind of a meh ending, which is great because it gives a variety, which we'll talk about later. But it's okay, right?
Yeah,
I
it
mean, because it
is.
lets you click through. You don't have to rewatch everything. And if you kind of get the gist of what's going on, you're like, oh man, I just missed this, this, and this. And you play through again, it's going to take you like a third of the time, anyways, if you're just doing it a second time right away. And then the next time, if you do it again in this day and age, oh my God, it'd be even a third of that because it's quick that way, but you want to get it all, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I guess to a lot of listeners who are more LucasArts centric, I would still encourage them to play specifically this game. Like I know when I'm making suggestions to people, like LucasArts players specifically who kind of just didn't grow up on Sierra, but they dabbling, that they want to try it, they don't know where to start. I usually say, Space Quest, Gabriel Knight, or Larbo 2. And I stand by that because it's at the heart of this game. It's just an awesome, really well done murder mystery. And you'd
mhm,
be hard pressed to find somebody that doesn't like a really good murder mystery, right? There's so much fun, and
mhm,
it's probably among the best topics for the best genre, not genre, but I'll just stick with topics. I don't know the right word. It's one of the best stories you could tell in an adventure game because the genre lends itself brilliantly to a murder mystery, because there's you could take physical notes on your own if you want to, but otherwise the game has a notebook for you, and it just lends itself really well, the genre of adventure, to murder mysteries, and the game pulls that off really really well. So
mhm.
last chance for spoilers. Um, and I will say too, if you're going to continue listening and you haven't played it, there's one of the, I think, brilliant parts about this game. And here we go. This is like just ripping the band-aid off, full spoiler right now. There is no one bad person. There
Mhm.
isn't like the one bad guy or girl who done the thing. It's kind of complex, and you learn as you go along that there's a lot of weird relationship stuff going on, a lot of ins, a lot of outs, very complicated. But it's not like I can say so and so did the thing, did the murder,
Yeah.
and that ruins it, because it's not that simple.
No, exactly. Like who and when and how and why, and answer all of it like it's a test and have you been paying attention?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, no, but just a
Well,
bunch of crazy stuff starts happening. It gets to the point where you kind of the goalpost changes, in the sense that, like, you're not you at some point you become much less concerned with who even stole the dagger, because there's
mhm.
just bodies just piling up. Um, and how
And
Lara isn't detained because she keeps finding them first, I'll never know. But
I know, and here she is sticking fingerprints all over everything, and she doesn't even
yeah,
mean to, and she's still not getting into trouble. And you know what? These bodies are great. It's not just, oh my God, there's a body. It's like, now look at it, search it, check it out, check out different aspects of it. Like,
yeah,
no, let's use a magnifying glass on this body and really, really think about the death.
yeah,
That
yeah.
is so cool.
And just one of my favorite things of Sierra games that LucasArts and all the other ones did also, which would be flavor text descriptions for unimportant or mundane things. They all did it, but I do think Sierra just paid a little more attention to them. They had more of them, let's just say, than the other companies. And this game's a great example of it, because they don't cheap out. So, like, if you're looking at the first body you find, Pippin Carter in the
Mhm.
sarcophagus, if you poke his eye, the game knows you poked his eye. If you poke his ear, the game has a response for poking his ear. If you poke his tongue, the game will tell you his mouth is dry and his tongue is cold. Like, it's really cool. Like, they've covered every base as far as that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and all the way through. I mean, everything about this game is so satisfying, from the deaths to the discoveries to the ending. Even if you get a bad ending, it's like, when you're watching a show and everything's over and it flashes up on the screen a photo of somebody in the show and they've done something and you want to know what turned out. 20 years later, blah blah blah, lives on the beach and
Yeah,
ended up with
yeah.
3 wives, right? Like this game gives you all of that, all wrapped up in a satisfying experience that you have control of as Laura Bow. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's such a great point, because if you're gonna play the game, and you've only got time to play it once. You're going to get the ending you get, and that's it. Like, we totally get that. That being said, at least jump on YouTube afterwards and look at the different endings, because what I really appreciated was what you just described, the whole VH1 behind the music. Where are they now? It's really cool because, like, for, I think it's Vivienne Delacroix, it says, this in the bad ending, it says that she died, and a statue was made of her and put in the museum, and the artist
Yes.
is credited as unknown artist, because you didn't solve her murder, so you don't know who killed her. But if you solve the murder and get the good ending, it tells you who the artist was, and it all fits. So it's just little tiny attention to detail like that that's just incredible.
Yeah, and they don't even act like it's creepy. They're like, nope, this person's died and you can go visit them. This is how they're displayed. Like,
Yeah.
it's so worth it.
And then, so I guess the overall plot, I guess, if you haven't played it, is you pick up as Laura Bow. She gets a job in New York City, by her father, who kind of recommends her for the publication. I'm not sure if it's like, Times. It's just generic New York newspaper that she works for, big time stuff. And she gets given this job, and so you have to kind of go around town. I think the main goal before you get to the museum is really just to find a dress.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to.
And they're uncharacteristically Sierra, but like, they don't come across very Sierra like that, because they really hammer that home to the point where, like, if you go to the museum ahead of time, there's a giant banner on the museum that says, social gathering tonight, blah blah blah, formal attire required. Like, it says it really big on the museum. Like, I get it. Like, we need to find clothes. It's kind of weird that kind of stuck.
Well, they incorporate it into the storyline later on, right? When your handsome fella shows up and he's got his tux on, but he's got the his work boots, right? And he's like, "Oh yes, no, I saw the fancy dress required. So look we each had to go to a lot of trouble to get our clothing, didn't we? Ha 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 ha."
Ah, you know what? I actually didn't put that together. Which makes your mocking laughter feel directed at me.
I was actually laughing because how early in the game they kissed. I'm just like, wow, you're really going for it. It's like she meets him, and within seconds she's like, wow, he's hot. Do you want to come to this thing? And he's like, oh yeah, like, I'm connected anyways. I'm in. And as soon as he gets there, he's like, oh yeah, I like spent everything I had on this tuxedo so that I could meet you here. But let's talk. And it actually kind of things hinge on what happens later on too when he's around. You can really mess stuff up with this guy if you don't do it right at the end. Kiss or no kiss.
Yeah. You can straight just blame him for everything, which is a good time in himself.
Well, that's what you want to do. Everybody wants to do that, right? That's a thing.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I have a very short list of critiques. It's really just that and one other thing that I'm not even going to open the box on yet because I don't want to start ranting too soon. But of my two critiques, the one other critique was that kiss, because it doesn't even fit the way she's responding to him. Like, she's very believable and ladylike. Like, well, I'm not really sure, but I guess he did go through a lot of trouble to be here just to see me. So yeah, I guess I can agree to dinner. Bam, tongues in each other's throat. Like, whoa, it's just way too soon. Like they for some reason they just gotten like a crazy rush to like make them in love out of nowhere. And it's like, the writing up until that point was really good. It was like pacing it lovely. And then for some reason they kiss, and even the kiss is like 2.5 seconds long. It's just a weird thing that should have been cut.
It's funny too, because it's not till he meets you later and he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't really explain to you who I was or what I did. So I'll tell you that now. And you're like, no, we were too busy making out for you to give me that information clearly.
Yeah, the kiss wasn't.
But, he was cute.
We get it. Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's like, we get it. He's the cute guy. He's the only guy your age, and you're both redheads. Like, we know it's gonna happen. Just pace yourself.
Mhm, mhm. Oh, this game actually offers up a lot of information really early on, like, even right at the beginning, you have to ask everybody about everything, and it's a little bit tedious once once you have, like, 2.5 pages worth of entries in your little notebook about people, but as long as you're doing that, essentially, Mr. Low Fat, who I'm sure we can complain about later in this episode, will tell you the lowdown on just about everybody. He kinda tells you who's a little bit shady and what's going on. He's really kinda given you the answer to everything that's going on.
That's a good point. Yeah, he's surprisingly gossipy, almost bitchy in a fun way. Let's just throw purses in the center and just
Mhm. Yeah, and one of the I mean, every single character in this and I think it's been brought up before by multiple people, Pushing Up Roses and others, that they're all just a stereotype of who they are. Like,
right.
whatever character they are, if they're Irish, they're gonna be really Irish. If they're, a certain other characteristic or heritage, no matter who's playing them, they're really going to be that, characteristic or heritage.
Yeah. Okay. So I say I let it happen naturally. That brings me to my other critique, which is related to more really specifically just the voice acting, the talkie version of it, because
Mhm.
I had previously played the non-talkie, the floppy version, 2 or 3 or 4 times before this week.
Mhm.
And I've
Mhm.
always loved it, and I never noticed what I'm about to say, and I finally noticed it upon playing the talkie version, which is what you just brought up, which is the outlandish stereotype things, and it's too much. It's like
Mhm.
every character has a weird, quirky, different thing about them. You know what I mean? There's the French girl, and then there's the Egyptian guy, and then they're like, oh, well, there's a second Egyptian guy, and they're like, yeah, that not everyone's got to be different. So the second Egyptian guy has a lisp. And then and then there's it's the super Irish guy, the low fat guy. I mean, even Laura herself with the over the top New Orleans thing. It's a bit
Mhm.
like the game almost deserved a little better than that because it comes across as kind of cheap slash jokey, and the writing is better than that. Like it's really
Mhm.
without hearing the decent voice acting. I mean, considering they're all
Mhm.
Sierra employees and they're not professional voice actors, it's pretty good. But judging it just on straight voice acting, forgetting the circumstances, it's not very good. That
Mhm.
also highlights it, right? Because it's like you've got like Josh Mandel doing Irish and doing a couple of different voices. They do him with like a Series D tuner for Steve, where he's
For
all
yeah.
super deep. Yeah,
No, they changed it around. It's yeah, I was like, "Well, I'm gonna play the disc version." I played the disc version. I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna compare it to the voice version." So I do the GOG, and I'm checking out the voice version, and God, I left it on for, like I didn't even make it through the newsroom. I was just like, "I'm
yeah,
sorry, no." I
yeah.
just because it's just I don't know, I've never played that version of the game, and I was like it's not just like, I can't judge the whole game on its voice acting on the first few seconds. I'm not that much of a bitch, but I'm just like, I how much bloody time do I have right now? I'm gonna play this game a few times. I'm gonna spend some time with it. I'm really gonna get to know it, and I already kind of know what they're gonna say. So I guess the best thing I could really do if I was being conscientious is if I met a new character, I could turn it on, listen to what they sound like, and turn it back off again if I felt I needed to. But I guess I'm not there yet. I'll save that for another day.
Yeah, no, that's a good angle too. Just to get the idea of what they're going for in their head, because otherwise, you know, God, I've been playing this a lot for the last 4 days, and I can't think of the name of the character. But the one with the lisp, who Richard Aronson voiced, who we just recently had on the show,
Mhm.
his text can almost be a little confusing until you hear what they're going for. Um,
Right.
but it's just
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
it's over the top. It's like they snuck a th a lisp into like every word, and it was all just a bit much. Like I kind of wish it was just just normal people with normal accents, let's say, and maybe of course like the French girl or the guy from Egypt, but like
Mhm.
everyone had to have a weird. They all had like a signature thing about the way they talked, and
Yeah, there was
it
that
made it a bit
German,
much.
right? Mr.
Oh right,
Heimlich
yeah,
there. He
exactly.
had that one he everything had to have that German kind of a sound going to it, and I think that was Josh Mandel, that one, but yeah, it was very stereotypical.
Yeah, I will say the German guy has some of the funniest lines. He made me crack up a couple of times. I can't. There was two of them that made me laugh out loud, literally, as opposed to like typing
Mhm.
LOL, and none of us are laughing when we type that.
Mhm.
It's pretty rare. But
Yeah.
he's one of them was when he's asking Laura to leave the gift shop, and he's like, "If you don't leave, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to even try." He's like, "If you don't leave the gift shop now, I'm going to be forced to injure you." And it just comes out of nowhere. You're like, Jesus Christ! It's just like a little.
Whoa, buddy.
It's a bit much, but anyway, since I just critiqued some of the voice acting, specifically Josh's, I do have to say that Josh Mandel does my favorite voice acting in any game I think I've ever heard in this, which is
Yeah.
Rocco the cab driver. And
Yeah.
it is just it just puts a smile, a big smile on my big old Jewish face, because he just rocks the best Bernie Sanders New York Jew that you've ever heard. I mean, it's if you're trying to wonder, I guess what I'm saying is just imagine Bernie Sanders, because he pretty much just nails Bernie Sanders as Rocco the cab
Mhm.
driver. They, they
Mhm.
they totally dropped the ball by naming him Rocco. Um, it's by giving him an Italian name, but he nails that, like, to the point where I was literally sad when your cab driver changes halfway through the act
I
and you
know.
you get the scumbag one, because I miss Josh's Bernie Sanders guy. That was awesome.
Well, that's a good segue actually to something I wanted to bring up, which was the interesting story progression. It's really one of the great pleasures of these Sierra games is they update and upgrade as you go along. I mean, all of a sudden you go from catching one taxi and then all of a sudden something happens and then you're catching a different taxi, but you have to do something in it so that you can progress for the next stage. Or there's a homeless guy, but if you poke him and he rolls over and you walk away, he'll come back. I mean, just the little things that happen that show you the story's moving along. It's never kind of static. If you're doing something, the game is going to show you. So I know you lose the cab driver, but I do enjoy how they do the story progression.
No, yeah, that's a great point, because they keep you motivated and rewarded in that sense, where
Hmm.
it's like, the first act starts to drag along a little bit. Like I found myself
Hmm.
getting not frustrated, but starting to wonder if I missed something. Like, I'm like, well, I probably should have gotten the dress by now. And
Hmm.
just 10 minutes after that initial thought, the cab driver changed, and you're in a messy
Hmm.
cab, and you look around the clutter on the seat, and you find a ticket, and blah blah blah. So yeah, but like you
Hmm.
said, it does a great job of pushing the game forward.
Although both of the games kind of do that, especially when you're over at the museum and the next thing you know, it's like another 15 minutes has passed and you're like, shit, like, have I done everything I need to do? Now the time's moving forward. Everybody's moved and something's different's happening. So you've got that little bit of stress that starts coming down on you later on in the game.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like almost a fun. Like, I'm pretty hard on time related puzzles, and this one does have one time related thing that I really don't like, which would be the Reaper. Or
Hmm.
is he a Reaper running from the hooded man?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and even though this is full of spoilers, I guess for the sake of it, I won't mention who's in the cape, in case you've forgotten. But so that part's a little, maybe that's where the line is, like, that's a little frustrating,
Hmm.
timing
Hmm.
wise. And obviously there's things like modern machines, and can make things a little wonky, but the rest of the timing stuff is a good stressful is a stress is the wrong word, right? It's hard to say. That's kind of an oxymoron. Fun, stressful. It's like a fun anxiety. Nope, that's also not a good one. It gets the heart rate up, where you finally get the how does it go down? You get the carbon and you rub it on the notepad, and you find out the
Yeah, you rub it
times.
on the notepad, and then you have to do the safe, and then you gotta,
Yeah, yeah, and you get the
yeah,
times that
yeah,
Pippin was going to meet these people, and
yeah.
that's the game will progress again. There's only one dead end, and that's the sandwich. So you can get to the end of the game whether you do or do not meet with them.
Hmm.
And it's really hard. I mean, there's no way you're going to meet all three appointments the first try without a walkthrough.
Mm-mm.
Even
Yeah.
with a walkthrough, it's actually pretty difficult. Like,
Yeah.
you can't dilly dally.
Yeah, it's the whole game's kind of like that. It's frustrating. There was a few times I was playing and I'm like, no, I just don't want to play anymore because I'm like I'm trying to do it by myself. I'm trying to figure stuff out, and I'm like, man, I don't want to keep walking between these screens. Like there was a few
Yeah.
times, and then I'm like, oh, I overheard all the conversations, but I forgot to talk to everybody. Now I'm like, oh, now am I stuck? But everybody's gathered, around the museum, but I didn't look at Buddy's necklace. And I'm like, oh man, I kept forgetting things I was supposed to do partway through. So you end up getting one of those mediocre endings.
Yeah, I didn't look at the necklace either. I completely had
Mhm.
forgotten to do that. It's funny you say
Mm-mm.
that. But yeah, and for people listening who are like hearing us say it's frustrating, but also hearing us say that we love it, it's because it's like old school adventure game fun where the other
Yeah.
night, my first night playing it, I turned it off because I couldn't remember. Just like you, I was trying to get through it without a walkthrough. Really, I was trying
Hmm.
to get through it without universal hints because these days
Right.
I'm pretty disciplined to where I'm UHS is as far as I try to go. I really don't want to do walkthroughs anymore. Um, but I really wanted to do it even without the hints. So I turned it off in frustration because I couldn't get down the bloody stairwell
Hmm.
because of the light bulb. Which
Yeah, the light
again,
bulb.
it was a lot
You
of
can go down when they're without the light bulb. I mean, what's your problem, Paul?
yeah. Yeah, I have a save game called About to Die.
That's the one.
Yeah, which is nice. It was actually again, it's kind of cathartic to die a nice Roberta Williams staircase death again in a game. Um,
Mhm.
that was fun. But yeah, I went
That
to
was
bed
good.
frustrated because I couldn't remember how to get the light bulb, and
Hmm.
I kind of knew it was from the lamp in Yvette's office. So I was like, what?
Hmm.
I know it's from this lamp, but I can't get it. So I went to bed frustrated. But the reason I say old school adventure frustrating can be good is because you wake up the next day and like after several coffees and whatever, I'm like, oh, I really want to get back in there and figure this out.
Hmm.
Like, it's that good kind of frustrated where you can't wait to refresh, take a break and come back and figure out what the hell it was you're supposed to do.
Well, and
And it
it's
might have
it's great.
sorry, bro, I'll just say real quick. In my defense, the lamp you look at the lamp and it brings up a little picture of the lamp, but then you have to use the magnifying glass on that to see the light bulb. So that's kind of a dick move. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and if you have the light turned on too long, I ended up going off and doing something. I came back and it's like, oh, it's too hot to the touch. You just got to like chill for a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it's not like
Right,
super
right.
straightforward. The game's like thinking about all these little things.
Yeah, yeah. No, good call. Because I turned it off, but I only did that because I didn't want like a vet to know I was in the office, which that's not a
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, I turned it off for the
Well,
wrong
I did the
reason.
same too. I mean, I closed the safe and I put the painting back and I tried to like clean up after myself and put everything how it was before. I don't even know if you get points for that or not. So,
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I'm kind of curious, like what happens if you don't close the safe? Because I definitely
mhm.
always do.
Oh yeah. I mean, it would feel weird to just be like, "Oh, I'm trying to do everything secretly, but I'm going to leave everything open everywhere I go." That's okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't imagine Laura as being that cavalier.
No.
But yeah, anyway, it's a really really awesome game. I don't know. Before we move into like just I wanted to talk about like some Easter egg reference things and some fun facts and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Before we move away from our own opinions, is there anything you want to cover before we do?
Uh, mm, no, no, I don't think so. Other than, okay, yeah, I'll hit this up. I just want to say I've got a copy of the Dagger of Amon Ra big box right with me, and it is a beautiful big box. And something that I had forgotten about it, for those that are interested in that sort of thing, is one of the spines is pretty in pink, like the back, and the other spine is black. And I don't know how many other game boxes are like that, different on each side. And the reason I was
Yeah.
thinking about that is I turned all of my game boxes around so that I could have the side without the UPC code facing out, because I realized for ages I've had them all displayed with the code on the side that tells you its compatibility facing out. So I flipped them all around the other way, and then I took a picture, and then somebody on Facebook, Chad Armstrong, we've had him on the show before, he's like, oh man, you have a black version of the box? I'm like, it's not black, it must be a reflection of the picture. But I'm like, of course it's black, it's my box, I looked at it, I know that it's black. But I'm like, that's not something that I've seen in any of the other games. Have you?
No, no, they've almost always got the same spines, right? I think that's the only one where it's got the black on, where the two spines are different. Let's just say, like completely different.
Hmm. Yeah, which fits because I mean the back of it has that diagonal divide where it's like this side is black and it's kind of showing you've got the light and you've got the dark, and right on the back it's showing you there's going to be murder. I mean,
Right.
clearly. there is going to be murder.
I like that.
So
That's good. That's
beautiful
good insight.
box. And beautiful documentation as well. I mean, there's obviously going to be a little bit of copy protection. You know, you have to identify some Egyptian gods, Hotep, and all that, which is pretty cool because Egypt's cool to learn about. You can't even really complain about them trying to make you learn stuff. It's like that's fine. It's like you prepared with Gold Rush. You are ready for this game. We're gonna teach you stuff. But
Yeah,
it's like the brochure. Go ahead.
it's not like shoehorned in either. Like it really does kind of fit. Where to get the job as of news reporter for this case, you have to prove that you know enough about Egyptology before being sent into like the lion's den. So it really makes sense. Like it feels like that would be part of your job interview.
Yeah, like, do you know about this? No, well, poser. You're
Yeah,
like, oh no, I guess you should know the basics about Egyptian gods before you go in on this. That makes sense. It's like Nancy Maple in the Crimson Diamond not knowing about gems, but she's a gemologist. It would just be silly.
right. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good point. I will mention too the differences between the CD-ROM version and the floppy. That's kind of give or take the only difference. Is the
Outside
there's
of
so outside of
outside of the taxi rides.
oh, that's right. You had told me about that. We that you said that the taxi rides are a lot longer.
On the floppy version, he tells his facts, but there's still more ride left at the other end, no matter what you have the speed of. And you know, sometimes they do the quiet taxi rides where they don't say anything. It's also longer, but in the version you get from GOG, which is also supposed to be the larger one, which is like what 400 and something megabytes. It's the CD-ROM version. He talks, and then as the second he's done talking, he starts right away. The taxi driver starts talking right away, and then the ride's over as soon as he's done. And then if he doesn't talk, the ride is only like 4 seconds.
Interesting. Okay. No, I did. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. I've like I said before, I played the kind of nothing but the floppies until this time, but I didn't notice it necessarily. So yeah, that's a really good one to point out. Because what I was going to say, the only other one difference would be there's no copy protection in the CD-ROM because back in the day,
Oh,
the CD would have
yeah.
had to have
Oh,
been
I
in
did
the
skip
drive.
that. That makes sense because I was like, what did I was like, I felt like when I was playing it, the other version, it was a little bit shorter. I was trying to figure out what it was because I'm like, this one's the bigger game, but it was missing the little,
Right.
like,
Yeah. Yeah,
oh,
where what's his name? Crodfeller, Crod something,
yeah,
the bald guy with the sun visor. It gives you the test. Yeah, yeah. So you don't have to do
yeah.
the test in the CD-ROM version. And then if you wanted to be really nerdy, you could kind of argue that makes the first death different. But that then
Mm-hmm.
then you'd have to consider failing the copy protection as a death, and it's kind of not. It's more just a fail.
No.
But
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And everybody's kind of like cynical too. Like the whole game is kind of like sexist, right? And to me, it's historically accurate picture of what the times were like in the 1920s. Like imagine a female reporter coming into a man's world where they have a men's lounge where they smoke cigars and a men's bathroom because it's a men's place, and you're just like you have to be like 10 times stronger of a woman to be able
yeah,
to handle coming into that man's world and have the balls to say, yeah, but you know what? I'm really good at sussing out stuff too. And I mean, she's having to defend who she is and her intelligence all the way throughout the game, which kind of puts me as the player on a heightened sense of, oh my God, what did I just do? I don't want to look like an idiot. Everybody out there is trying to prove that I suck. and
yeah.
I just want to prove to them that I don't suck. So, oh crap, I touched this. I got dust on my hands. Now I'm getting fingerprints on crime scenes. Or, oh my God, did I accidentally break something? Do I restore the game because I'm going to look like an idiot? Nobody's saying anything.
Right,
So,
right.
what do I do? Is when are they going to say something? Because the game lets you make these stupid mistakes. It's like there's a cliff, go ahead, walk off of it then, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's a really good point too, because I mean, playing it as a male, I can almost walk a mile in the shoes kind of thing, where you can really feel to probably a lesser extent of what it's like nowadays to be a female, but still obviously unfortunately is a little bit there. But
Hmm.
especially just role playing as a woman in the 20s, as a journalist trying to be who's smart and intelligent and independent and all the good traits, but it's just constantly having to put up with just gross comments and bullshit and constantly having to reprove herself no matter how many times she's correct. It really makes you feel. It makes you feel like a woman in the 20s because everybody's just doubting you and talking down to you or hitting on you inappropriately. And
Yeah.
I saw some criticisms of the people calling the game sexist, and I just to a degree, I guess it's not really my call to make, but I just felt like those criticizing it were missing the point. That the point was
Yeah.
this is how it was in the 20s,
It
and
was
and
sexist. It really
exactly like
was.
exactly to be a woman in a professional, yeah. So they did an awesome job of making you feel, where she had to really take it on the chin to a degree, but she does a great job of firing back very, I don't want to say passively, but professionally, like she doesn't take any crap, but she doesn't lash out.
Hmm. Yeah, she just, takes her notes and does her thing. And she just knows the only way she can prove herself is by doing her job properly, which is clearly not stopping murders. She's a reporter, as we've mentioned with the other game when we talked about Colonel's Bequest. But she's very good at looking, seeing, writing, cataloging, and paying attention, which in the end turns out to be pretty important.
Yeah, and she doesn't let the males like walk all over her. She doesn't
Mm-mm.
lash out because then she'd lose her job, but she does a good job
Yep.
of standing her ground, I guess you could say. So
Hmm.
it's really really well done. And then I guess that could bring us a little bit into the uh, controversies of the game because there's a lot of the stereotype stuff, and obviously we're heading into low fat territory. Yeah, no, this is sketchy territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah.
let's,
Yeah. A
let's get
little
out.
bit.
Let's get out of here. Let's bloody move on. Let's get out of here. Okay, I'll move us on. I'll say back to what you were saying about the cab rides. That it was really fun that they gave you little historical information, like the cabbie would talk about. Oh, here's a good one. That he recently had that young Asimov kid in his car. And
Hmm.
he's like,
Hmm.
he's
Exactly.
always eating candy and making the seats all sticky, but he's a smart kid, and that's pretty fun, right? Because Asimov's parents did own a candy shop in New York, and that's something that
Hmm.
would have happened in that time. So that was fun.
Yeah, and I like it how they kind of use the facts to cover up the fact that you can't have any conversation on your whim with the cab driver. He's like, I don't care. I don't want to talk about it. And I don't want to talk to you. By the way, have you heard of Lewis Carroll?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. He's what was another one? Al Jolson. He's making into some movie called The Jazz Singer. It's supposed to have voices in it. It'll never replace radio. Stuff like that was a lot of fun.
Mhm. Yeah, it put you into the time period. I've mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. If you primed up with loving facts and adventure games that were subtly given to you with Gold Rush, this is the next game for your library, certainly. Because it's even more subtle and fun. And it puts facts bloody everywhere. And I mean, you're in a museum, so you can imagine. You can be learning about dinosaurs and knights and historical stuff and works of art and just so many different things. It's going to be subtly teaching you without you knowing it. The next thing you know, you'll be at a party and you'll be popping off facts. You'll be like super popular. You can
Yeah.
thank this game.
Yeah, that was a leap right there. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those games too. If you're playing or if you want to replay it, slow down, stop and appreciate the flavor text. Appreciate just
Yeah.
looking at stuff that isn't gonna forward your progression. Just to appreciate it. Like there's
Hmm.
a weird tiny little screen where you go down the hallway in the armory in the medieval display, I guess
Hmm.
you could say, exhibit, and just above the door there's like six flags and they're just plain colors, but if you click look on them, they all have their own description, and it's not just a blue flag. It's the blue flag of Arthur, but I don't remember. But
Hmm.
it's really cool. Like literal background art has its own
Hmm.
unique descriptions and stuff. So it's worth checking out
Hmm.
when you go through it. But oh, sorry. So back on the topic of sneaking in real facts and stuff, I thought it was cool that Pippin Carter is basically Howard Carter, right? That was pretty
Hmm.
cool.
Hmm.
Like they
Hmm.
kind of took Howard Carter and changed his name to Pippin, and so Howard Carter is the man credited with discovering the tomb of Tutankhamun, right? Who
Hmm.
basically found that. So they just kind of made Pippin Howard Carter, but they also made him just a pompous, just the worst guy, and
Yeah. His
I was
death suited everything about the character, didn't it? It was just perfect.
yeah, exactly. And it was so appropriate he was the first to die because it's like he was
Mhm.
just a dick to everybody in the worst kind of ways. He'd be like,
Exactly.
yeah, he'd be the first one. Um, and I was digging up a little info on Howard Carter just to see how related they were, and I I, I don't know. I couldn't find really anything negative on Howard Carter. Like Google didn't respond well to is Howard Carter a dick, or
Mhm.
things like that. Like I couldn't find anything on like personality. It seemed like if anything, high society looked down upon him because he had kind of commoner background and didn't go to university and things like that. So he wasn't really even after his fine, he wasn't accepted into like the well-off circles and was never recognized, never knighted, never anything like that you might expect from a Brit. So yeah, I'm
Mhm.
not sure that Howard was actually quite the arrogant, little whatever that Pippin was, but
Well, to, make that kind of discovery and do that kind of work, maybe you kind of have to be at least a little bit.
yeah, perhaps exactly. But and
Mhm.
yeah, I know from what I read, he was out there for like 30 years before he made that.
Wow.
Yeah, just looking
That's
and
hardcore.
the some lord I believe in England was paying for his expositions or whatever you call them, and he cut
Mhm.
him off after 30 years. He's like, I'm done, I'm not paying you anymore to do this. And Howard Carter said, just one more, please, just one more. And
Oh,
that was the one
wow.
where he found Tut. So that was super cool.
Wow. I'm so close, man. Just give me one more. Imagine you dedicating your whole life to dying like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And he found it in the end. So that was fun. And then the other thing I'll mention too, kind of on the nerdier side, but back to the game and Sierra side of things was Ralph Pulitzer, of the of the family. Pulitzer
Mhm.
was supposed to be more in the game. Like he's in a screen standing next to either your boss or uh, I think it's your boss. Doesn't matter. He's I think he's just a sprite standing there. I'm not even sure you'd know who he was, but thanks to the many nerds like us, and thanks to Phil Fortier's SCI companion, people had found a talkie animation for Ralph Pulitzer. So he was supposed to have
Oh.
had a bigger role than he did. It just never made it in the game.
Oh, is that just like from right in the first when you're off in the office at the news place, you mean?
No, so be at the kind of at the very end. I'm not to be honest.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not exactly sure where his sprite that is in the game is, but I think it's if you get the good ending, it's you're
Mhm.
told that your boss is going to what do you call it? Elect you, not elect. Is going to recommend you for a Pulitzer
Mhm.
surprise.
Yeah.
Surprise, a Pulitzer prize. Um, and so I'm guessing that they maybe at one point had it so she was going to actually maybe get the prize, and Ralph would have been
Mhm.
the one that gives it to her. I'm guessing, but yeah. Anyway,
Oh.
long story short, we kind of never know. But he did have his own little talkie frame and art done, but it was never used.
Interesting. Yeah, there's definitely a dearth of characters. I mean, going right back, heavy spoiler here, like super spoiler, massive spoiler. So feel free to mute it for a few secs if you haven't played it. But pretty much, Low Fat gives you the tip of what's going on right at the beginning of the game. Because if you talk to him about everybody and you talk to him about O'Reilly and you're like, oh, what's up with this guy? He's like, oh man, he's a dirty cop. No matter how many times I wash his clothes, oh, I shouldn't have done an accent. No matter how many times I wash his clothes, he's never clean. And right away, I mean, if you're taking notes on the characters, you're going to write dirty cop. And I mean, you don't even realize until later how heavily he's integrated into like every little bit of it. But like essentially, right, this guy at the beginning of the game is telling you everything that's up if you're paying attention
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the
that's a good
character
catch.
too. Hmm.
Yeah, and that was right in front of my face too, and I really didn't think much of it. Like I just took it as just gossip from that guy. But you obviously read between the lines, and you're right. It's
Hmm.
prophetically correct.
Well, on one of my last playthroughs, my husband was sitting next to me and we were talking about it. And he's like, some of this seems silly because he pulled up a walkthrough online and was sort of reading what I was doing. And he's like, walk across street twice, pick up newspaper 3 times. He's like, why'd you have to pick it up 3 times? I'm like, well, technically you don't. You have to click on it, you have to look at it, and then it'll bring it up. You got to click it again to open it. You got to click it again to see the coupon, but then you got to click the coupon to pick up the coupon. So technically it's a progression. But if you just look at it in a walkthrough, it looks really dumb. And it
Right.
does. If
Yeah.
you read a walkthrough for this game, it looks so stupid. Pick up bone, like find passage, get light bulb. It's not that lame. And you really have to have the time to sit and think and look and concentrate. There is so much dialogue, and it's really, really text heavy, which I find is such a nice thing to come across. Games of that age were really good at that.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It is. And there's one. I think it's the Sierra Help walkthroughs. Are they kind of reduce entire games down to like one paragraph? So like they just
Oh
cut
yeah.
all the crap and they're just like, do this, do that, walk over there, pick that up, do that, and it's just like, if that was, I imagine like that's probably what James was looking at, because that really just takes all the magic and fun out of it when you see it
If
reduced down to a few paragraphs.
It's probably, it usually comes up first, but I'd like to say that they're good. And I super appreciate everybody that's put the help stuff up there, but I find it's often missing one step here and there, which is really crucial in a game. It'll be like, but you don't have to, you only have to talk about this one thing to this one person and don't worry about the rest. But then you find out you needed to talk about more than just that one thing. So it's like, it's cut down so to the nitty gritty that if you follow it entirely, you're going to miss huge sections of the game.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I don't, just so many Sarah games. This one being a prime example, just aren't meant for that type of gameplay. Like there's so much craft that you miss by just playing the
Hmm.
story. There's just
Hmm.
you lose all the immersion and all the fun facts or potential funny lines. And yeah, this is a really good candidate for just exploring the world you're in and taking it all in, taking your time. Like
Hmm.
if you're in a rush, or if you've got the mentality of like, I'm in this game to beat it, it might not even be that fun, because it's just, to me, it's not the kind of game you fire up to beat. It's the kind of game you fire up to experience.
Hmm. Yeah, very much so. And if you just follow something straight through and get to the end, you still might not get it right, because you know what, you might have missed something, and the option that your walkthrough is telling you to click might not be there, because
Yeah,
you might not know what's going on.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because it's the game is like that. It verifies. It's like you don't know what you don't know. So like, try telling me something. If you don't know it, the option's just not going to be there. We're not going to mess around here. You don't know that. You can't make it up. Not at this point. You can't come in now and say that. No, absolutely not. Start over. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well put. All right, I've got some kind of Easter egg reference things to go over really quickly, but before I do, I've got one last like fun fact sort of thing that didn't really
Ooh.
fit anywhere, and that's just that the archaeologist song, right, which we've
Hmm.
discussed kind of recently. Um, I had no idea about this, and thank you to Charles for pointing this out to me, and actually giving me quite a lot of like fun behind the scenes facts for me. But he pointed out that the archaeologist song is based on the song "Lighthouse Keeper" by Erica Egan, and
Hmm.
you can find it. It was on the Clockwork Orange soundtrack,
Haha, nice.
and it's not, you're not going to listen to Lighthouse Keeper and be like, oh, that's the archaeologist song, because it's like the
Hmm.
archaeologist song has its own feel. It's original enough, but it's definitely based on Lighthouse Keeper. It's a really good way of taking inspiration without ripping it off, I'll put it that way. But
I'm
if you like the
that's
song, check it out.
I'm really glad you brought that up. I actually wanted to say, if when I was playing the floppy version, the non-talkie version, I was surprised because boom, there she was singing. I almost had forgotten. Of course she sang in every version that I've played, but I might have only had PC speakers the first time. I don't know. But I was pleasantly surprised to see that she was singing in both versions.
Yeah, that is nice. I'm sure of the seven or so floppy disks, one of them is there just to hold that song.
Exactly.
Took a whole megabyte.
All right, so you've got some Easter eggs for me. I'd like to hear that. I haven't even looked into any actual Easter eggs in this game outside of references. I've seen a lot of references.
Yeah, and now I feel super weird about calling anything Easter egg, just since we did that episode, like we did it to ourselves.
Oh yeah,
um,
because they're still Easter eggs too, even though they're like references isn't even a thing. I had to backtrack. I think it is more Easter eggs. Anyways, whatever you have, it's what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's both and neither. I'm not going to take a side. These are whatever you want them to be, but they're things. So we've got so there's a Gabriel Knight Easter egg, but this one's in Gabriel Knight 1. And this one's probably I have it at the top of the list because oh no, I did write the full thing. Thank God. Okay, so at the university, if you so again in Gabriel Knight, at the university, there's a bulletin board, and on the bulletin board it notes that there's a conference with Laura Bo Dorian that's going to happen there, and I thought that was the most significant because I guess since Gabriel Knight's obviously a Sierra game, that kind of makes it canon that Laura marries Steve.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, right? Because the game ends by saying that they date each other.
Yeah.
So the game doesn't
It
go
might
any farther than that.
end saying that you date each other.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you put all the crimes on him. But yeah, so that was kind of cool. So I guess Gabriel Knight kind of makes it canon that Laura Bo does marry Steve. So there's that. Since we never got a third one,
No.
and just sort of related, I will say too that Jane Jensen does have a small speaking role in Dagger of Amon Ra. Jane Jensen being the writer, creator of the Gabriel Knight series, she's the voice of the Flapper Girl who, just is super thirsty for Laura. So yeah, that's Jane Jensen, which is pretty cool. And her husband, Robert Holmes, is Writing Man. Writing
I didn't know
Man.
that.
Yeah, I don't know who Writing Man is.
Oh.
Scott Murphy, fun fact, the two guys is credited as Miscellaneous People. So you can hear him just muttering at some point about, something. But anyways, back to the Easter eggs. So yeah, the Gabriel Knight, that's probably the most interesting one, again, because of the canon thing. Low Fat says to Lara Bo that the clothes will be ready next Tuesday. And then he says, just kidding. And that could be a reference to Freddie Farkas, because Freddie Farkas has the same exact line where the other characters say to Freddie when he tries to claim his old boots that they won't be there till next Tuesday. So just a little
nice nod.
Yeah, nice nod. Here's a not so nice nod. This is one they really should have just let this go. But apparently, Low Fat is the cousin of Hop Sing in Freddie Farkas. So yeah, again,
of
probably
course.
should have just let it go. But alas, I'm just reading facts here. So that was kind of cool. This next one is probably the only one I noticed, which would be that Crodfeller, again at the newspaper, bald guy's sun visor, does that typical Sierra thing where they say the protagonist's name wrong, as probably you would know
that
from
one.
Larry more than anything.
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, you're Laura Baines."
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, oh man, yeah, that's right. You're like, Jesse's my cousin.
Yeah, so that was fun little police quest one, and then I've only got a few more at least written down. There was more I didn't write down, or more appropriately copy and paste. But here's 3 King's Quest ones, right? So it's a Roberta Williams game, maybe asterisk mark, but nonetheless. And so there's a lot of King's Quest ones in there. So I think the most fun is in the Hall of the Great Masters, like the room with all the paintings, the art. One of the paintings is of King Graham being tortured by skeletons in hell. So that's kind of cool.
Beautiful. Yep.
If you examine the skeleton key, Laura Bo surmises that it might open Pandora's box, which is probably
nice
a King's
Rosella
Quest
reference.
4.
Yeah. Very nice.
Exactly.
Very nice.
And then there was like 5 or 6 of these, but they got weaker as the list went on, so I omitted a bunch of them. So here's the last one I thought was at least somewhat interesting. When the king cobras are discovered in the tunnels, it's possible to interact with them and get a King's Quest reference where the narrator basically just says, this ain't King's Quest, Lara.
Oh.
And the last one I've got is from Freddie Farkas. Again, a bunch of Freddie connections here because it's Josh Mandel, his other game that he co-wrote, and it's basically, if you look at the little papers sticking on the wall in the general store, you'll find a notice that says, "One ferret, brown and white, answers to the name of Daisy, enjoys sniffing out dead bodies. If found, please return to Dr. Olympia Miklos, care of the Lion Decker Museum in New York." So
oh, cute.
Yeah.
That's cute. Yeah, I like the little fun text. Josh Mandel is just such a great voice actor and creative writer. A game like this or Freddie Farkas obviously could never have been anything as cool as they were without him.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm a huge Mandel fan. I want to say
Mhm.
even more so now. I've always appreciated his humor. I've always respected him for what he's done vaguely, because I only kind of knew what he vaguely did, because he seemed to have had his hands in minor roles in a lot of Sierra stuff. But
Yes.
I didn't know that he co-wrote Dagger of Amon Ra until this
Mm-mm.
week, and
Mhm.
I had only played Freddie Farkas a couple months ago. So the culmination of those two games, they're amazing. So yeah, I'm kind of immediately a huge fan of him and his Bernie Sanders voice. I knew it was Josh because I was like, that's a Jewish guy doing this voice. I mean, it's that good. I mean, there's no way. You have to have the Hebrew in your blood to do it that good. Again,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
Jewish. I'm allowed to say this stuff. People don't get upset. L'chaim. Uh, okay, so to wrap the episode up, because this is going much longer than we thought it would. I've got three little last things. Two of them are really quick. One, I didn't know this, and this fits for either Laura Bow game, but I didn't know that her name was kind of a pun or a play on Clara Bow, who was a
Hmm.
star of silent films and early talkie films. And I guess you could say her likeness too, because yeah, I guess so. She definitely rocked like a shorter, curly hairdo sort of thing, so you could maybe see that. But if you're just also now learning this, just Google Clara Bow, because that's fun. And then the other thing is that the cover of this game, which I think Anna, you'd agree is probably the best, if not among the very best big box art
Mhm.
games just ever. The cover of this game is just phenomenal. And
Mhm.
that was based on the Saturday Evening Post. Issue would be, I didn't write this down, this is from memory. Issue was March 18th, 1905. I am confident
I
to.
thought, yeah, I thought it was 1906, but it could be 1905 because I change things in my memory. I'm gonna look. I got this. Hang on, I have your Hebrew version right here. Yeah, it was 1905. March, looks like March 18th, something like that.
Nice.
1905, yeah.
Awesome. And that may or may not be the thumbnail for this. I'm not sure, but if it's not, you could Google Saturday Evening Post, March 18th, 1905. It'll pull up right away. Just go to their website and it's right there. And it's pretty cool. It's yeah, like the cover of the game isn't like a depiction of it, but it's again kind of like I said with the archaeologist lighthouse keeper song. You can tell it's inspired by it.
Yeah, it's her pose. It's the way she's looking at so many things about it. It just the hands aren't exactly in the same position, but there's a lot of elements that are quite the same. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty cool. Okay, and then the very last thing is kind of just a surprise question for you, because I have a great answer. So I decided, instead of just saying my awesome answer, to put you on the spot, bring you down with me, but you're unprepared. So that's fun for me. Just for fun, who would you pick to play Laura Bow in a movie?
Ooh. Oh, that's a on this one. I don't know. I think it'd be kind of wild to have somebody like Angelina Jolie doing her. I like. I think that she would be non-traditional and doing up her hair and everything. She would be pretty snazzy for that role. Is that crazy? Do you think I'm crazy?
No, I could see that. Yeah, that's really not bad, because I mean, it's, yeah, kind of
Mhm.
like a rounder face, like full lips. I could see that.
Yeah, I think she could play it up well with the murder and the mystery, but she's also tough and she can handle all the deaths and all this crazy stuff happening around her. So yeah, that's totally my pick.
Okay, and then mine um, is uh, is Rachel Weisz, from
Hmm.
specifically from The Mummy, which I just now I'm realizing the irony there. The Egyptian thing. But if you look up a picture of Rachel Weisz from The Mummy, like with
Mhm.
the curly short hair, like it looks exactly like Laura Bow, but
Oh,
without pixels.
yeah. If you're actually going for looks, she makes more sense than mine because I was not really going for looks as more as like an air about her and a personality. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
in looks, you've got a good one here. I'm just looking at pictures. Wow, yeah, good choice.
And you could always
Oh,
cheat
and
and
her
say,
eyes.
right? I don't know what it is. Like it's amazing how much she looks like a pixelized, woman.
Oh
Like
my God, I'm gonna send you this picture right here, and I'm just like, "Oh my God, this is exactly it." Sorry.
yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
can see this, so you can totally edit that out, but it's
No,
like,
keep it in,
damn, this
frustrate
looks
them. Don't Google it if you're like driving or whatever. But yeah, no, it's crazy how much it looks like it, or she could be it.
Mhm.
I guess I should say. Yeah. And I don't know. I'm saying Rachel Veitz. I think that's the right way to say it. I can imagine like a more North American might be Wise instead of Veitz, but
Mhm.
doesn't matter. The girl from the Mummy. We had you there. So all right, that's good stuff. I mean, you could always have cheated and just said Clarabo. That would have been an acceptable answer too, since she's probably based off her. But
Yeah, I guess that would have been. I know, you know me, I never take an easy answer. I'll always give a strange one, or I mean, another good one. So,
all right. You got any closing thoughts?
uh, it was a really neat experience to play the game again for this show today. Not only was I taking my usual notes that, on every conversation and anytime I think something's interesting, and I was taking screenshots whenever it's giving you codes and numbers, but I was taking notes for this episode, and it really was another layer to it. Like, I think I enjoyed the game before, but now I feel like I enjoy it even more knowing sort of what's going on and paying a different kind of attention to it. I highly recommend, if you haven't played it, to give it a try and try your best not to use any walkthroughs or anything else. Don't worry so much. As long as you don't muck up with the sub, you should be fine. Just save lots and die lots and get through it as best you can, because it's worth it. Even the crappy ending is satisfying and a little funny. I mean, the crappy endings. I don't know how many you can get, like 7 different ones, and it's literally asking you who did it and how are they motivated, and like who helped who, and like who was the mastermind behind that. And literally it is the whole chapter. They're just asking you, and you've got this list with like all the choices of everything on it. So it seems, I'm trying to make it sound better or worse, but to me this all sounds
Yeah.
amazing. I have my arms in the air and I'm expressing to you how cool this game is. So just go play it.
Yeah, no, that's really well put. I would say the same thing. It's an easy game to just completely like fall in love with. Basically, it's got everything. You got the murder mystery, the investigation. You feel like you're the character. Like I said earlier. I mean, I genuinely felt what it might have been like to have been like a woman in the 20s. That was kind of the power of this game.
Mhm.
And I guess I could add too is even with the spoilers that you potentially probably didn't skip ahead for or anything like that, we still didn't really spoil it because there isn't the one guy who did the thing. There's a lot
Mm-mm.
of moving parts and it's not. I thought it was done really well. It's weird because I saw one of the biggest critiques of this game I saw was from Adventure Gamers. They gave it a 2.5 out of 5, and their reason was sloppy storytelling. And I couldn't
Hmm.
really disagree more because the way they intertwined the characters, there was believable motives between the
Mhm.
different things that were going on and the feuds between the characters and it had a lot of complexity beyond just one angry guy who's running amok in the museum killing everybody. It was a lot more complex than that. And yeah, it's just really cool. It's a fun immersive experience. It's old school in the sense that you could take your own notes if you want to and get even more gratification, but you obviously don't have to. I mean, I didn't.
Mhm.
I haven't in years, and it's still enjoyable.
Mhm.
But yeah, go bloody play it. Like I said before, this is my one of 3 Sierra games that I try and push on the Lucas players who don't play Sierra games. Like if you're gonna play a Sierra game, I would say this one or Gabriel Knight would probably be the way to go.
Mhm.
And Space Quest 2, but I can't ever decide on which one to tell them. Like I want to say 3, but they probably won't put up with parsers, and then my other one's 5, but it doesn't matter. We're
Mhm.
we're all, we're all done. Let's let
You
it.
you we're gonna read an email. Are you gonna read an email?
Sort of, yeah. More so, I'm just going to give a quick shout out, basically, to Chris
Okay.
Baker and his project, which is, sorry, let me do that again. My voice was, Jesus. Yeah, I'm just gonna do a quick shout out more so than read the email, but I just wanted to shout out to Chris Baker, listener of the show, who wrote in a very kind letter saying he's working on a game. He's writing on behalf of Little Night Games, and they're making Mira: The Legend of the Djinns, which I hope I'm saying right. I think I am. But it's a 2D game called Mira: Legend of the Djinns. It's inspired by Moroccan and Amazigh folklore, which it's weird. I had a hard time with folklore of all those words, but it's a beautiful game. Like literally a drop dead gorgeous 2D game. It's on Kickstarter right now. By the time you are hearing this, it's the final day, and it does need more to reach its goal. So there is still time to hop on Kickstarter and check it out. And again, just this person's a listener, and they asked us to, and we want to support obviously indie devs and anything for a listener kind of deal. So just a shout out to them. It's a gorgeous game. So go to Kickstarter and search for Mirror, Mira, Legend of the Djinns, Djinns, and you can find it on there. So yeah, just check it out. It's a beautiful game. Again, you're hearing this on Tuesday. This is the last day that it's on Kickstarter, and it's a little bit short right now. So if you're inspired by its art and the idea of the game, maybe consider backing it. But otherwise, you can do all the other things I yell at you to do, which is join the discussion and community. We're a page, we're a group, we're on Facebook. You can check us out on Instagram at CGG Podcast. We're also on Twitter at CGG Podcast. Do us a tweet there if you like. Say hello. Email is mail@classicgamersguild.com. Huge thank you to all of our Patreons. Really appreciate and love you guys. Thank you for helping us cover hosting fees and just supporting us in general. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, you can. You got to be 18 years old or older to have your parents' permission. just get that 3-digit security card from them. Security code, whatever. Just go to Patreon and throw us one to thousands of dollars if you want to. No big deal. Huge thank you to those in our extra special thanks tier, which would be Una and Gus, Jay Holmes, and Mark Fillion. Check out Mark's game Chinatown Detective Agency on Steam. You can wishlist it and check out the demo. It's amazing. And if you want to say hi to myself or Anna, you could probably find Anna most of the time on Facebook. Would be the best place to reach her. So you could say hello to her there in the Classic Gamers Guild. If you'd like to reach out to me for some reason, you can find me at Phantom Fellows on Twitter. That'd be the best place to find me there. And yeah, other podcasts usually say that, so we're gonna start saying that now. It's an olive branch, so you could say hi. You don't have to. You could just yell it back to this recording right now if you want that. I'll do. But if you do say hi, we're here. We're here for you. So that's it. Bloody go play this game. It's on GOG. It's maybe on Steam. Don't do murder.